a function to create functions. Excel's Lambda function gives you everything you need for creating your own custom formulas. No VBA, no coding, just pure Excel formulas. You give it inputs, define what it should do, and then you can reuse it. For example, you can create a function that calculates your age for a given birth year, or a more complex function that can generate descriptive statistics for a given array. These functions can have custom names and custom arguments. They will work in any worksheet. They can also return the results in the format you define. You do not need to know any programming language such as VB or Python, and no add-ins are required. In this video, I will show you step by step how you can create your custom function using Lambda through examples. To write any Lambda statement, I always start with writing my Excel statement. I start with writing my Excel formulas. I'll do all the calculation, test it, make sure it works, then I will convert it to a Lambda function. In the first example, I want to get age for a given birth year. To calculate age, we can start with getting today's date using today function. Then we can pass this to year function to get the year part of the date. I need to format this as general, not a date. Then I can deduct the birth year from this value, and that will be the age. Let's convert this to a Lambda statement. Start with Lambda function, and you will have parameters and calculation. You can have 0 or many parameters, and the last argument is always the calculation. I only have one parameter here, which is the birth year. Pick a name for your variable. I will call this simply birth year. You cannot have a space in the name of a variable. It should be one piece. I capitalize year to make it readable. No more parameters, so we can have our calculation here. The Lambda function itself doesn't return any values. You need to pass the parameters. When you're done with the Lambda function, you need to open and close a pair of parentheses, and the parameters will go inside this parenthesis. In this case, 1999, and press enter, and this will give you the age. The final step is to assign a name to the Lambda function. We need to copy the Lambda function. You don't need to copy the last parenthesis, which is the arguments. Go to formulas, name manager, and add a new name here. I will call my function AgeFunc. You can explain what your function will do here. And I'm going to paste my formula in this box. Make sure you only have one equal sign. Click on OK and close. Equal sign, age function, and when you type the first 2 characters, the function will pop up here. Press tab to autocomplete, and I can see the argument is the birth year. I can refer to the cell that contains the birth year and enter, and that will give you the age value. This will work similar to any other function in Excel. You can use copyhandler to copy the function. You can use this function in all the other sheets. For example, if I go to a new sheet and type age function and type 1985 and press enter, I will get the age here. The next Lambda function will calculate the BMI value. The formula is very simple. It's weight multiplied by 703 divided by height squared. We're going to pass the weight in pounds and height in inches, and we will get the BMI value. Let's start with the Excel function. Weight multiplied by 703 divided by height squared. So if your weight is 150 pounds and your height is 65 inches, your BMI is 24.9. Convert this to a Lambda function. Lambda, there are 2 parameters here. The first one is the weight, comma, the next one is the height, comma, and the last argument is always a calculation. weight multiplied by 703 divided by height squared. Close the parenthesis. To test this, we need to pass those values. The first argument will go to the weight variable, which is 150 in this example. And the second argument is the height, which is 65. This will give you the exact same value. I'm ready to assign a name to this. Copy the Lambda function. Go to Name Manager and create a new name. The name of this function will be BMI, and the formula will go to this box. Click on OK and close. To test this, type the name of the function. You can see there are two arguments, weight and height, and this will give you the same value. In the BMI sheet, I have weights from 100 to 200 and height from 60 inches to 80 inches. I want to calculate BMI for each combination of weight and height. We can use our function here, equal sign BMI. The first value is weight. My weight is in row number 3. Type $sign before 3 to fix the row. The second argument is the height. The heights are in column B. Type $sign before B to fix this column and enter. I should be able to copy this formula to all the other columns and rows. Lambda function is not only for numerical calculation. We can use text formulas in Excel to manipulate our text. In this example, I want to pass first name and last name, capitalize, uppercase, lowercase, doesn't matter, and I want to generate full name, first name, space, last name. Using the concat function, we can concatenate multiple pieces of text, but first I need to fix the capitalization. Using the proper function, I can capitalize any text. The first character will be uppercase, all the other characters will be lowercase. I will pass both first name and last name to a proper function, then I will concatenate them. We need a space between first name and last name. We need to manually add that to our concatenation. After first name, I'm going to add one space and enter. Let's convert this to a Lambda function. The first parameter is first name. I'm going to capitalize N. The second parameter is last name. And the last one is the calculation. Make sure you have matching number of parentheses. And to test this, I'm going to pass a first name to the first argument and last name to the second argument. I'm ready to assign a name to this function. Copy the formula. Go to Name Manager, New. The name of the function will be FullName. And I'm going to paste the formula in this box. For the next example, I will write a Lambda function that can pick a random value from a range of values. Here I have a list of teams, and I'm going to randomly pick one. The first step is to count how many items we have. Use the count a function to count how many items we have here. These are non-numeric, so we have to use a count a function. Then I will generate a random integer number between 1 and 10. So Atlantico Madrid should be my first pick. How can I return that value? We can use the index function. And pass your generated index value here. Each time you will get a new pick, In this run, I got FC Barcelona. Let's convert this to a Lambda function. The argument is a range of cells. Let's call them teams. There are no more arguments. We just need our function to be able to get or pick for this range. We use the index function to pick a value from this range. We use the randsBetween function to generate a random number between 1 and 10. This value, 10, can change based on the number of items we have. So let's replace this with a function that can count the number of cells in a range. What is a range? Teams. Make sure you have a matching number of parentheses, then we can test this. The range will go to the last pair of parentheses, enter, and that will give you a random pick from this range. I'm ready to assign a name to this function. Copy. Go to name manager, new, and give it a name. I'm going to call this PickOne. Paste your formula in this box and click on OK. Let's test this. PickOne. And enter. Because these are randomly generated values, each time you will get a new team. For the next example, we have a range of values, an array of values, and the size can change. We can have different number of rows and columns, and we want to write a function that can return the minimum, the maximum, and the standard deviation of the values in this range. When I got those three values, I'm going to concatenate them and return it as a single string. I want to display in a string next to this value to show that this is the minimum value. The string is min colon space, and let's close the quotation mark. And to concatenate this with the minimum value, we need this character for concatenation, and let's press enter. Next, I'm going to get the maximum value. The title is max. Concatenate that with the max function. I need to have a space and some sort of delimiter between these two values. So here I'll have a space. I will add this character and one more space to make the result more readable. And the last part is the standard deviation. If you want to have a specific number of decimal points in the result, we need to use a text function. I need to nest this in the text function. The first argument is the value, and the second argument is the format, which in this case is 0.00, meaning we need 2 decimal places. And I'm going to apply the same formatting to minimum and maximum value. Let's convert this to a Lambda function. To save some time, I'm going to copy my entire statement and paste it in my Lambda function. What are the parameters? We just have one parameter, and that's an array. The second parameter is my calculation. I can just paste my statement here and make some adjustments. I need to replace this range with that variable, which we call the array, and we'll do the same for the next 2 ranges. To test this formula, we need to add a pair of parentheses and insert a range inside this pair of parentheses. As you can see, the Lambda function can quickly become long and messy. Excel has a solution for this. Go to Home and go to your add-ins. In the search box, search for Excel Lab and add that to your Excel app. This will appear on the right-hand side of the Home ribbon. It can be used as Python editor or advanced formula environment. I'm going to use the first one, click on Open, it will be much easier to develop our formulas here. I'm ready to assign a name to this function. Copy your Lambda function. Go to Name Manager. Create a new name. The name of the new function is ArraySummary. And paste your formula in this box. You're ready to test this. What if I want to return the result to a table? Using Lambda function, you can generate a dynamic array. I will use Excel Labs to write this function. To be able to generate a dynamic range, we need to use another function called let. Let will let you to assign a name to some results. My function is Lambda. And the first argument is an array that we are going to use. I will use the let function here. And the first item is a variable called minimum value. I'm going to use the min function in Excel, and I'm going to pass my array here to calculate the minimum value. The next variable is the max value, and I'm going to use the max function in Excel, and I'm going to pass my array here to calculate the maximum value. I'm calculating something and I'm assigning to a variable, and I'm going to have multiple variables here. The next variable is standard deviation, and I will use stdev.s for sample, and I will pass my array here. I want to create an array for the labels, and I want to create an array for the values. So what are the labels? We can use the vStack function to create a stack or an array. We need 3 labels. The first label is the minimum, the second label is the max, and the last label is std. Then I'm going to create my values. Create a variable called vals or any other name, it doesn't matter. Then I'm going to use the vStack once more to create an array for my values. We're going to have the minimum value variable as the first value, max val as the second value, and the standard deviation as the third value. We created one column for labels, we call them labels. We created one column for values, we call them vals. Now we're going to put them together and return a table. To do that, we can use the HStack function in Excel. The first column is the labels, and the second column is the values. Let's save this function. We're going to get some error because we haven't passed anything to this function. Let's add a pair of parentheses and pass our array. The result will be a dynamic array. The first column is the labels, and the second column is the values. So if you want to return an array, you can calculate your results, you can create columns, and you can create an array and return that array. I'm ready to assign a name to this function. Let's copy that from here. Go to Formulas and Name Manager. I will call this ArraySummary 2. And I will paste my function here. In the next example, I want to write a function that can give me a summary of the statistics for an array of data. If you're familiar with Pandas, there is a method called describe, which will generate the number of items in a range, the mean, standard deviation, and the percentiles, minimum, and the max value. I want to write a Lambda function that can do the same for me. I will not write the Excel version of the function. I will just do everything in the Lambda function. And for this, we definitely need the Excel labs. The argument is an array of values. I will use the let function here, similar to the previous example. The first step is to calculate everything you need and assign it to a variable. For example, how many items I have in this array, I'm going to call it count. And I will use the count a function to make sure that if we have non-numeric values, we can count them. And I'm going to pass my array here. The next variable is mean. And we can use the average function to get the average of our array. I will assign my minimum value to this variable, and the function is min. The formula to calculate a quartile for an array is quartile.inc. Pass your array here. And the second argument is which quartile you want. I want the first quartile. Median should go here. And the function is median. I'm going to pass my array here. The third quartile could be calculated with the same quartile function. I calculated everything I need. I'm going to stack them as one array. I also need another stack of values for labels. Let's just start with the labels. The first label is the number of items or count. The second label is mean. Third label is std, and so on. Then we can stack our values. I will call that values. I'm missing the standard deviation here. Let's add that. I'm going to call that std. And the formula is standard deviation for sample. Don't forget the comma here. And we are going to pass the variable to a stack. We have the first stack, we have the second stack. Now we can combine them into one array. The last argument is what the Lambda function will return. Let's save this function. To test this, we can pass our array here. There's an error here, so let's fix this. I'm missing one label after standard deviation. I should have my minimum value here. Let's save this. To test my function, I'm going to pass an array to the end of this Lambda function. And you will get this array. There are 22 values in this array. Mean is 55, standard deviation is 28, minimum is 6, and the maximum is 93. And you can see 25 percentile, 50 percentile, and 75 percentile. Let's assign this to a name. Copy your Lambda function and do the same. Go to formulas, name manager, and a new name. Paste your formula here and give it a name. I'm going to call this function describe. Let's test the formula. Using this function, you can create a summary of the statistics for your array. In the last example, you're going to write a function to retrieve data from different tables. There are 4 similar sheets, each one for one class. In each table, we have student ID as the first column, student name as the second column, and the grades for homework 1, 2, 3, and 4. I want to write a function that takes the student ID, the class name, and the homework, and it will return the student's grade. All tables have similar structure. There are many different ways to write this function. I'm just going to use the VLOOKUP that takes a student ID and it will return the matching value from one of these columns. Let's move to class 102. I will write my function here, then I will transfer that to the main sheet. The class is class 102. The student ID is STU1717, and we are looking for homework 1 grade. Using VLOOKUP, look up the student ID and this table and return the matching value from column 3. And the match should be false. The function should work for range in different sheets. So we need to generate the range. I'll use the indirect function here. The first argument is the sheet name. Class is the sheet name. Use this character to concatenate, and the range should go inside a pair of quotation marks. When we are adding a sheet name to a range, we need to have this character after the name of the sheet. Also, I'm not sure how many rows we have. We can expand this to A1 to F50 to make sure that all students are included. Press enter and you'll get the same value. This will give you the grade for homework 1. What if we want to grade for other homeworks? I can match homework to the values in this range to get the column index. Let's delete the column index and write a match function to generate that value. I'm looking for this value, and I'm going to match that with the values in the same sheet. So let's use the indirect formula once more. The sheet name is class 102. And we want to match the homework with the values in range A1 to F1. If I change this to homework 2, I will get Jamie's homework 2 grade. Let's copy the formula from here and move it to the main sheet. Let's adjust the ranges. The lookup value is student ID. The sheet name should go here, which is class. The homework should go here. And the sheet name should go to here. I'm ready to convert this formula to a Lambda formula. Let's copy this and write the Lambda function. There are 3 parameters: student ID, class, and homework. Then you can paste the function here. The first argument of the VLOOKUP function is the student ID. The first argument of the indirect function is the class. It's the same for the second indirect function. And the first argument of the match function is the homework. To test this, add a pair of parentheses, add student ID, class, and homework. This should work for any students in any of these classes. Let's add a name to this function. The name of the function is StudentGrade, and it takes student ID, class, and homework. The Lambda function will give you the tools to create any formula in Excel. If you have a large nested function, Lambda should be able to simplify that function into a single name, and you can pass the arguments and get the results.